Hey, what's going on, guys? Jay here. I'm sitting on my bed here, got my light shining on me over here, so it's kind of like a cool effect, a little shadow over here, a little wall in the background, so, you know what, I figured I'd go with it. Recording from my laptop, and, honestly, the video quality is pretty terrible compared to even an iPhone 4 or something, but I'm going to stick with it because the audio is not too bad, so. Anyways, I got a lot of people wondering what's going on with me. Suffice it to say that I'm pretty disillusioned with the church, pretty disillusioned with pretty much a lot of stuff that's going on in my life right now, fighting through some of the worst suffering, depression, anxiety, other symptoms that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And even right now, I'm having to force myself through it because it's not going to own me, it's not going to win. And it's taking a lot of willpower I didn't even know I had to get through some of these dark times I've been going through. And to be honest with you, there was days I didn't think I was going to make it. And I took various supplements, and honestly, I think those supplements have helped. I think the willpower has helped. I think some of the practices I've been doing, like the emotion code, and just praying, and just different things, and plus people being there for me and praying for me has helped. So I don't think for a moment that I've lost my faith. I haven't. But it's really hard when you grew up in the church, and you had an abusive past, not you being abusive, but people abusing you, and getting bullied at school, having barely any friends, no romantic relationships till I was in my 20s, very rare, very small amount of experience with dealing with people, and honestly, even to this day, I don't even know how I made it this far. It's like just the sheer force of will and not giving up and just keep pushing on and hoping. There's days where I just have to say, well, I want to die today because I feel so bad, but maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe something will change, and every single time it has. Every single time things have gotten better when I felt like it wouldn't, because part of the symptoms of this kind of depression, which I call like an existential depression, is crap, you don't even know who you are or why you exist, and you don't know what it's like to feel good, and if you can't feel good, what's the point of existing? And I'm going to shut off this this indication here. 1 second. So, it just pummels you down to the ground, makes you question your own existence, But a part of me was like, well, God didn't bring me here to die, And, I'm just reminding myself that I'm a child of God, and I'm going to get through this. God's going to heal me. God's going to love me and get me through this. Even though I feel like I've been cursed with this, not literally a curse, but I feel like it's a condition where I don't have the receptors in my brain or in my heart to even feel love 99% of the time. I feel love in the sense of hope. I feel love in the, when I see other people hurting and it makes me sad or cry or whatever, I know something's still in there. I know I'm not completely defective, but it feels like a lot of times relationships are very hard. I have very few friends. And most of the friends that I had from when I was younger, I barely even talk to right now, which is really sad, But, that being said, as I said before, I grew up in the church. I grew up being taught about God's love, but also God's wrath. So the cognitive dissonance that I've had about God and His character has stymied my faith and my growth and just pretty much my entire experience with religion. My entire life. And so I have well-meaning family members and friends who talk to me about God and His love, and they'll share Bible scriptures and stuff, and and they'll tell me to go to church and pray and read the Bible and all this stuff, and they're all well-meaning, and and let me make this clear: I don't discount anybody else's faith. If the Bible works for you and has got through to you, and you felt God's presence, and you felt like God has healed you mentally, emotionally, even physically, who am I to discount that? Who am I to say that God's, that the Bible's too limiting, or, that God's not angry and you believe in Him and He's still done this, did these things for you, but you still have wrong ideas of God. God doesn't care as much that you have some wrong beliefs about Him if you're seeking Him. Like, in other words, if my son, thought I was, a genius and a millionaire, and looked up to me, as like a hero, and then he grows up to find out that oh, I'm just an average guy who's dealing with some pretty crazy stuff in life, and I'm not rich, and I'm no hero. I'm a coward sometimes. Does that make should that mean that his faith in me should be any less, or should that mean that he should believe in me any less, or that I should believe in him any less, even more so, because my son had wrong ideas about me? No. Especially as the parent who's in that position of power, in that position of grace and mercy that you should be giving to your children who are going to make mistakes and grow up and not know what they're doing and make wrong decisions and learn the hard way. You'd probably want to have mercy for them and grace for them and love for them versus saying, well, they thought I was this, that, and the other thing, and they were wrong about that, So, therefore, they're not worthy to come into my presence. I always questioned that all my entire life. And it all started with the whole idea of hell. And everybody that knows me well knows that I don't believe in hell. Hey, that rhymed. Essentially, that I just couldn't... There was so much cognitive dissonance in my mind, even growing up, and maybe growing up in a home that was harsh, brought that to light in my mind. Like, how could this church that's preaching this loving God, how can this loving God send people that don't get it right in a 70, 80, 90-year time frame to a place of eternal conscious torment? It just never sat well with me, even though the Bible supposedly clearly pushed this point home. And it wasn't until I did some deep diving into the Bible that I was able to even use the Bible itself to disprove that erroneous doctrine. So, fast forward a few years, as I've gotten older and was in denial to my mental health condition, I would always try to find things to try to make myself feel better. And I had some bad coping mechanisms. And you probably guess what some of those coping mechanisms were as a guy. And I wouldn't get drunk all the time. Maybe I've only gotten drunk maybe a few times in my life, or buzzed, mostly. I would say there's only been one time that I got so drunk that I even, threw up afterwards. I never blacked out. So I didn't abuse it like an alcoholic, but, there was that among other things that I did to get through the day. And, I finally stumbled upon near-death experiences. And to be honest with you, near-death experiences are, some of the biggest sources of hope that I've ever had. Just reading people's near-death experience stories, giving me hope that, okay, there is truly a loving God, once you die, but this God seemed too merciful, too graceful, too loving, even more so than the biblical version of God. There's some hellish NDEs, but even those, most of the time, people come back with some kind of positive reason, maybe a warning that their life was headed the wrong way, or how they're making other people feel, and even a lot of those NDEs came out to be good in the end, where Jesus saved them from, hell, wherever they were at, and then it ended up turning into a good near-death experience. But by and large, 85% of near-death experiences are positive. So, and they didn't, and typically the being or beings who came to these people didn't care what religion they were, or even if they had a religion. Some were even atheists. Some had committed suicide, or tried to commit suicide, I should say, because they came back. And, God still loved them unconditionally regardless. So that made me start questioning, my own religion that I was brought up in. I grew up in the church. I say that all the time, So of course I know what I'm getting myself into. Of course I hear all the warnings. Oh, don't be deceived, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and there's all this fear-mongering, just stuff that people will tell you, so that you just stick to the Bible. And if you have any questions about anything outside the Bible, you're on dangerous ground. And if you dare, read other resources, or, go on Facebook or YouTube and watch New Age teachers, or philosophy videos, or dare, read other religious resources to try to get an idea where people are coming from and what works, then you're pretty close to being a heretic, probably even lost your salvation, and I have people that question my salvation because I've dared to question, the religion I was brought up into. I mean, that's like, as a Christian, would you, you would probably be happy actually, but would you blame a Muslim for saying, wait a second, I'm going to question this religion I was brought up in. Maybe there's something else. Maybe there's more to this God than what I've been brought up in, And by and large, what I keep coming across is, which makes logical sense, the only religion that is real is your own religion. your own personal religion, or some Christians will call it a relationship with God. And I realized this year, I mean, it's kind of been a slow realization, but more dawned on me, and I made a final decision this past weekend, not this weekend, but the one before that I am no longer going to be a part of the fundamental Christian church anymore. Does that mean I'm disfellowshipping myself from all believers? No. Does that mean that I don't call myself a Christian anymore? No, not even that. You know, I still call myself a Christian because I follow Christ and I believe in Jesus. I believe what he, that he came here to show us the love of the Father, and that we should love each other as we love ourselves and love God, and just in the way we should live our lives. But after going to church for 30 plus years and seeing other people raising their hands up and praising God and worshiping Him and feeling His presence and His joy and glory all over them, and just feeling His love and bliss, some of them even being slain in the Spirit, or speaking in tongues and all this stuff, and I just remember my entire life looking at them like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I experience any of that stuff? It was like looking from the outside looking in. Like, they got it. Something in their brain got it, and my brain just couldn't figure it out. What the, blank is wrong with me, That's how I would feel. And I'm sure a lot of people out there watching this video might even be able to relate to that. And it's a pretty terrible feeling. It's a pretty defeating feeling to be going through, if for someone like me that had grown up with trauma and neglect and abuse, especially with being bullied at school, that's compounds on top of it. Then when you have a mental disorder on top of that, attachment disorder on top of that, just all that compounding, you almost want to lose your will to live, And I see it, I see it so clearly now that I was trying to live my life based on other people's religious experiences. And it was last year, August 17, 18, that I discovered the Urantia book. And everybody knows that I'm a huge Urantia book reader, and some people are kind of cringe about it. Some people are worried about it, like wondering, oh great, what's this guy into now? If it wasn't for that book, I might not even be here right now. I might be at the very least at a mental hospital. It has been the one thing that has kept me hopeful, because there's something about it, something about the just the way it portrays the truth, and it portrays God's love and Jesus' his love and the life that he lived in such a way that resonated with me. And it was, the Urantia book and a lot of the encouraging quotes from the book that had got me through some really hard, dark times when the Bible didn't. I'm sorry to say that. And someone could probably say the same thing about their experience. They might have discovered the Bible when they were in jail, or discovered the Bible, when they were going through a really hard time, and the Bible was, and God used the Bible to bring this person to who? To God. Not the Bible. The Bible's a tool. I don't worship the Bible. I don't worship the Urantia book. I still have, believe it or not, as much as I don't, believe the Bible's the inerrant word of God anymore, I still have 2 Bible apps on my phone. Probably can't see it because of the glare, but, I still respect the Bible, and I respect everything that it has done to lead people to God. Okay? Just like a preacher can go on stage and preach the Word of God, and then, lead people to Christ, and then 2 years later he gets arrested for, I don't know, maybe he molested a child or something like that, something really heinous, And you know what? Does that discredit the good in the person or the good that they preached? No. It's just that we're humans, we make bad decisions, sometimes really bad, devastating decisions, but it doesn't disprove the existence of God or the work that he can do, or working through somebody else, So, that being said, I was, told to go, or I shouldn't say told to, like it was coerced, but I was encouraged to go to different Christian events over the years, and one of them is called the Encounter with God, run by the Assemblies of God. And God bless them, there's a lot of amazing people that go to the Assemblies of God church. My aunt is a preacher at an Assemblies of God church here in Virginia. And I respect the living crap out of everything that, preachers and people that go to school and get their doctorates in divinity, and, I respect it, because they're disciplining themselves to set their life apart for service. I don't agree with everything that they preach, and I don't agree with everything in the Bible, but I agree with the idea that someone's going to go out there and have a life of service to other believers, or witnessing to people to help bring them into the kingdom. So I respect that. But what I don't like is, just feeling like I'm defective and I don't belong, and that something works for somebody else but it doesn't work for me, and I get this victim mentality about it, and then I almost kind of turn angry towards the church, and there's been times where I was angry, and vented about the church because of me feeling like they're pushing their ideas and pushing their beliefs down my throat, making it like their way is the only way. And really what it is people have a tendency of taking an experience they have and extrapolating it across their current faith system and saying it as a truth. So one day maybe somebody was slain in the spirit. Now everybody should be, or they were speaking in tongues. Everybody should be doing that. It should be. Let's make a whole doctrine out of it. Let's make a religion out of it. And there's all these things that just, honestly alienate other people like me. People that don't have the same kind of brain you have. Maybe they don't. Maybe have you ever thought to yourself that maybe speaking in tongues is, maybe someone is genetically predisposed to being able to tap into a part of the spirit that allows them to do that or something. A lot of genetics, I believe, have a lot to do with it. Your physical state, your mental state, your environment, nature, nurture, like all that stuff, I think has something to do with it. If I was brought up in a very loving, nurturing environment when I was a child, I think maybe I would be able to do those kind of things. Maybe my brain would have formed a different way, where I wouldn't have this problem, which is not really a problem. But what it comes down to is and I said this before, and I'll say it again. Somebody had to look at a set of facts that were placed in front of them and decide whether it resonated with them, whether it made sense or not. As a Christian, someone had to have preached the gospel to you and handed you a Bible and lived a certain way that led you to believe, okay, their religion is correct. But in the end, that person had to make that decision. You had to make that decision. Nobody else can step inside your brain and make you think a certain way, twist thoughts to mean something that they want it to mean necessarily, or coerce you, or in any way. You have to be the one to come to that decision, because it's a personal decision. You have your own, ask any Christian, they're going to give you a different version of Christianity. No one's going to give you the same exact uniform definition of what their faith is and what they're supposed to believe, what they're not supposed to believe. Why do you think we have so many denominations? Heck, why do we have so many religions? Because people have personal experiences with God. So that's why I can feel like I'm saved, and someone else could, and maybe even a Muslim could feel like they're saved, or even a Buddhist might think that they're, whatever version of saved is, if they go to Nirvana or whatever, they may feel, content in their own religion because they had an experience. And you can't deny experience. You can't deny somebody's experience. I can tell you about a miracle that happened to me last year, but it means nothing to you because there's no context for you. You're not living in that situation. You weren't going through what I was going through. So the miracle might not make any sense to you. It could have been a coincidence. But from my perspective, if that was a coincidence, then everything is a coincidence. Or nothing, or you know what I'm saying. If it was a coincidence, then my whole life's a lie, because the amount of things that had to have been there as prerequisites, on top of the asking of the prayer and having it immediately answered, is just way too many. There's way too many variables to that have been a coincidence. But it's not going to prove it to you or anybody else, And I'm not going to start a religion based on God answering that prayer and say, oh, everybody has to do exactly what I felt and exactly what I saw because, God answered a prayer. No, it's for me. Because only my brain can comprehend what's for me. Your brain can't comprehend what's for me. So, that being said, I went to the encounter. I'm going to try to keep this at just over 20 minutes. So, if you've been here this long, I appreciate it. But, I went to the encounter and, and a thought occurred to me, the last time I went, I didn't have the best experience. I remember feeling like, this isn't working for me, because, a lot of it's just you sitting there in a room with a bunch of other guys and you're reading from, AG endorsed literature. And of course, it's going to go back to, you know, believing that, you know, Satan can do this and that to you, and the enemy's, you know, trying to destroy your life, which I don't disagree with 100%, but, you know, that I think they give him too much power, and that Jesus had to die for your sins, and, you know, just we have so much sin, and it's all sin. It's like, you know, everything we do is a sin. We blink the wrong way, it's a sin. It's like, you know, honestly, I'm just, you know, it just didn't resonate with how I believe God views us. I don't believe we're born into original sin. So, you know, that being said, you know, I remember last year, you know, as they would go around, they'd have like a little deliverance section when you just go over different things you need to repent of or things you need healing from, and just remember feeling like, okay, I'm not feeling anything. Nothing's happening. I see other people claim something happened. I didn't see anything. I didn't see any ghosts or spirits or, you know, weird things happening. They warned us that there could be things that could happen, like someone was levitating once. I don't know about that, but, you know, they warned us that you know, things could happen, you know, and I was there the entire service, and all it was people walking over and praying on them, and I can't say what happened to them. I can't say maybe some people were set free from whatever was holding them back, you know. Jesus had said many times your faith healed you, you know, so he didn't even have to do the work half the time. Half the time is you and your own faith, you know. So, but when I'm already set up for going in there knowing now, this is 2 years later, this happened the last weekend, knowing that I'm not going to agree with everything they're talking about, and I'm not going to resonate with everything they're preaching, and knowing that, you know, that God doesn't just heal everybody on the spot, you know, and knowing that I just don't fit in, I'm already set up for, you know, disappointment to begin with. So, but it's nothing new, you know. I've been through that my entire life. So as I'm sitting there, half the time they're talking, and I'm just like, I don't agree with this. I don't believe in that. This doesn't resonate with me, you know. But after the sessions, you know, everybody's walking around, you know, being super friendly, nice, talkative, you know, showing the love of God, and just being great people. So, of course, what happened to them is real. Of course, they feel God's love. But maybe they're at a different point in their life. Maybe they don't think the way I think. Or maybe I have a super intellectual type of mind that I have to have all the facts. And I have to have it portrayed a certain way for me to get it. And I feel like that's what the Urantia book did for me. But I couldn't, there was nobody that I could fit in with there. I felt out of place. So I decided to call my wife and have her pick me up. And, you know, a couple people asked me what I was doing as I was leaving. I was like, I need to go. This is not for me. And supposedly people asked about me, but not a single person reached out to me personally to see why I left or how I was doing. But should I really expect that? You know, I don't know. I don't want to have this, oh, pity me, poor me kind of attitude where, you know, I want to, you know, put up a big stink and then have someone go, oh, are you okay? I'm done with that, because I used to do that, you know. So, but I do hear from the grapevine people wondering where I went, and, you know, why didn't anybody call me or ask me? You could find my phone number, you know, if you really wanted to. But at the same time, maybe they were thoughtful and said, well, he's doing his own thing and we don't want to bug him and make him feel coerced. You know, they did make a comment, this is not a cult. If you need to leave, you need to leave. So I appreciate that. But the frustrating thing is, you know, kind of going through that phase, you know, where you know that you know, almost know too much intellectually, but you're still emotionally behind or spiritually behind. And there's a lot of stuff that happened to me this year, and that people would make a comment like, oh, it's probably the Urantia book, it's probably all that New Age stuff you're dabbling in. No. Trust me, it's not. Those are the things that have helped me get through. It's other things I'm not going to even talk about on this video. It's none of my business to talk about. Excuse me, frog in my throat. None of my business to go about advertising, but there's other reasons why I'm going through this right now that have absolutely nothing to do with me reading the Urantia book or dabbling in New Age, you know, teachings or anything of that nature. So if you want to know, call me, email me, text me, Skype me, whatever. You know, if you really want to know, if you want to know where I'm at, I'm not here to try to convince you that the Urantia book is some inspired sacred document, because I'm not. You know, I'm just telling you what worked for me, what got through to me. And if that's not good enough for you, I'm sorry. But I'm not going to say the Bible's not good enough for you when I don't believe it's the inerrant word of God, if it's helping you come to God. if it's helping you get to the knowledge of Jesus. So I hope people out there that actually spent the time to watch this video understand that I don't hate the church. I'm disillusioned with the church. I don't want to go back to fundamental Christian churches anymore. You know, I checked out Fellowship of the Inner Light on Virginia Beach, and it's an interfaith, Christian-based interfaith church. And, you know, I don't agree with everything they talk about either. You know, you're not going to find a perfect church. Everybody's going to have their own interpretation on their experience with God and spiritual matters. And that's what you're going to have to come to terms with if you're a Christian missionary, expecting people to conform into your box of fundamental Christianity and the beliefs thereof. It's not, you know, and you're going to come across more and more people like me that, you know, see the inconsistencies and the errors in the Bible. But I'm hoping that people that come across this, and hopefully if you're someone that's disillusioned with the church, that you don't just throw out the baby with the bathwater, you know, that you don't just quit on your faith because, you know, the Bible just was wrong, or the church wronged you, or somebody, you know, abused you even in the church, you know. None of that disproves the existence of God. So I'm trying to take the rational route and try to discover God on my own. That's my next step, is to find a way to experience God on my own without having to live off other people's experiences. And I hope that this video has served some purpose in that it can, multiple angles, help people, whatever the step they're at in their faith and their walk. Thanks, and God bless.